$52 million. What are the projects you're doing, and what does this mean for the
Do-ba-doo, do-do-do-do. Press conference time. It's press conference time. Let's go. What's up, everyone? I was just kind of looking around the internet and I saw the press conference is actually happening in like 2 seconds. So I figured probably a good thing to talk about post insanity from last night. So we'll see how it all like goes down. Hope you guys are having a great day. This is the Derek O'Shea Show.
Welcome to the revolution.
What's up, everyone? What's up, everyone? This was like a random live event. I assume that
is Detroit's answer to the Build Back.
I'm not sure how many people show up, but I'm excited that we're
doing inclusive
doing it
and
anyways.
equitable lens. GEM will help the Detroit region redefine every aspect of mobility, from the cutting edge technology that moves people and goods to creating new quality jobs and readying new sites. Here's Biden talking. Business. We are building an inclusive, prosperous 21st century.
Inclusive.
With your help. GEM's vision is to accelerate economic growth by building on the region's unrivaled mobility assets. It will create a smart,
I'm currently
secure,
live on YouTube.
Inclusive advanced mobility
I'm not live on Rumble right now.
Starting with the transition.
I didn't realize the press conference is like right now. Usually
autonomous and fully connected.
I usually assume the press conference is at like 1 or 12.
That will help the region and country maintain its global automotive leadership. GEM will support workers, startup businesses, and
we're waiting for the press conference to start
as they adapt.
Biden is still talking.
Mobility industry. Led by one of the most diverse regions in the United States, GEM offers the opportunity to create a national model for equitable economic growth. We are ready to help secure the nation's advanced mobility leadership for generations to come. Thank you again. We welcome any questions, and we also want to invite you, Mr. President and Madam Secretary, in 2 weeks to join us in Detroit at the North American International Auto Show, where we can show you in person how we are leading the way.
I'll be there.
Awesome.
I'm a car guy,
Yeah.
as you kind of noticed. Hey, look, I drive
how would we have noticed?
Crazy and my staff crazy by asking them to give concrete examples that if you walked up to somebody in a corner and said it, they could completely understand it. One of the things that this is pure Biden, but I believe, and I've been saying for some time, that the next 10 to 15 years, more is going to change in terms of technology and innovation than has happened in the last 75 years. I mean that sincerely. Things are going to change so rapidly. That's good if we're going to compete in the world, but also it's scary as hell for somebody who, like we were talking on the way over to this building, about how
sorry, my internet was all junky. Let me fix my internet. I'll be right back.
Supplying small parts to internal combustion engines, and you were giving me an example, Madam Secretary, of a bolt one company provides that is not going to be useful in an electric vehicle. And so what we're going to do is train that company, the ownership of that company, what parts they can contribute to make that vehicle. And I'll give you a concrete example. Remember when we were having the great difficulty, we still have some difficulty in the supply chain of items coming from Asia, and the shipping, the vast majority of it comes through the ports in San Diego and Los Angeles, in those ports. And the ports were asking for help all across the country for new technologies, new cranes, new movements, more robotics. I said, okay, we'll do it on one condition, that the people you have on the job now at the port are the people you train. You give them the opportunity to man the new machinery. Not a joke. And one of the things I think was so important about what we're
no one
all
thought you were
talking
joking.
about, all of you are talking about, is think of all the people who've been breaking their neck and doing well, doing things that really matter, who are going to become what they're doing because they're going to become obsolete because how things are changing, whether it's a transition in the climate environment or whether it's...
Just so you know, guys, that just popped on. I'm waiting for the press conference to start. It was supposed to... It should have started at 9:45. Biden is still talking about American Rescue Plan investments or something. And we're just waiting for the press conference. I feel like this press conference might be a little spicy, so I decided to go live. I hope you guys are having a great day. Get in the chat. Drop a like on the video. If you're new, make sure you subscribe as we go live all the time on this channel as we try to laugh through some of the insanity that we live through. All right?
As you know, in our region, because you were very important here a few years ago in helping us make a transformation, we need to do it again. We have a terrific, talented workforce and supply chain, but we need to give them the skills that they need and the tools that they need. So one example is a company in a community in the Detroit region called Oxford. It's Barron Industries. They're a casting company, but they need help in making sure that they can produce the right parts with the right technology at the right speed with the right talent. So they have been receiving assistance on marketing, on cybersecurity, on production techniques, so that they can make the transition as rapidly as the OEMs are making it, and they can stay an important part of that supply chain. That also includes making sure that their employees have the skill sets, the upskilling that they need, so that they can be successful. And as you say, included and staying here in our region to do those jobs.
Mr. President, one of the things I love about what Maureen and her team is doing is that so often we focus on the big three automakers, which is important, you know, for all the obvious reasons. But what they're doing is focused on the whole network of small suppliers. You know, the hundreds, if not thousands, of small, family-owned suppliers to the big three, and making sure that, as Maureen said,
all
they
right,
have
wrap
the new
it
materials,
up.
the new technology, the new training, so that they can continue to service as we move towards EVs. And so I give you a lot of credit for getting into the supply chain.
Last thing I'll say, I can talk about this for a long time, but going through two of the major American automobile plants for a long time, for an extended period of time, there was a lot of concern by the UAW about robotics and how that was going to displace workers, when in fact, being able to teach those folks how to use those robots and increase productivity and doesn't displace them is what's really happening. And so it's all about, you can maintain the workforce, you can increase the productivity, remain competitive internationally, and still get a lot done. But at any rate, I maybe as my grandfather used to say, with the grace of God, the goodwill of the neighbors, I'll see you at the auto show.
We welcome you, absolutely.
What?
So,
What?
mentioning
What?
robotics
Your
is a
grandpa says that?
perfect segue. I'd love to turn it over to Stephanie from the Southwestern Pennsylvania New Economy Coalition. You all will be receiving
Finally, they just updated this.
$62.7 million. I'd love to hear Stephanie talk a little bit more about that. To put this in perspective and to pick up on the point you just made, Mr. President, about robotics, Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh is, we all know, a world leader in robotics, and a lot of jobs have been created right around
Still waiting for the press
CMU.
conference to start.
But if you're living in a coal community or a rural community outside of Pittsburgh, you might wonder, how do I fit in? How do I get a job, you know, with robotics? And
You're the county executive, that's what you do.
exactly, that's why he's part of it. So that's what these guys are doing. So we'll turn it over to Stephanie and the team, and maybe tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Oh my gosh,
Sure.
wrap this
Thank you,
up,
Madam
dude.
Secretary. And yes, Mr. President, I am joined today by several of your friends, the County Executive, Mr. Fitzgerald, President of Carnegie Mellon University, Farnham Jahanian, and my colleague and the Chief Equity Officer on the project, Majestic Lane. And what I want to start off by saying is thank you for your vision. And thank you very much, Madam Secretary, to your incredible team and for you in making that a reality. What we have loved in some ways most about this project is that we get to do what we do best in Pittsburgh, which is collaborate and bring together what we had 200 partners, which is we call the special sauce in Pittsburgh, to make words into action to deliver on your vision. And so through this amazing challenge, we are able to do exactly what you said, which is to look at those 3,000 manufacturers that are in counties like Indiana and Fayette and Greene and Washington, and marry them with the over 100 robotics companies that birthed from Carnegie Mellon University and many of our other folks, to actually put them together to create the jobs and the technologies and the companies of the future. And we're doing that in a way that is building programs for people. This is about people first. 14,000 workers, 750 companies that will fuel an entire new economy for us that we think won't just be about Southwestern PA and not just the United States, but globally, to redefine how we do business and how we keep jobs at home in our communities, as you so well described.
Thank you. One of the things I love about this is a lot of people, when they hear robotics or they hear autonomous technologies, they hear, I'm about to lose my job. And so what Stephanie and the team are doing is saying quite the opposite. This is going to create job opportunities for you, including in your rural community, not just in the neighborhood of CMP.
What? Oh my God.
I so appreciate that question, Madam Secretary, because as you can imagine, as the birthplace and the leader in robotics, this is a question we tackle and think about extensively. And I can start by telling you the data, which is we know that for every one job that may be displaced with robotics technology in a company, it's creating at least 1.5 and sometimes more. But what's even more important and that we understand is for the companies that are actually growing and scaling in our midst, those 100 companies I talked about, many of them have upwards of 1,000 employees right now. And those are middle skill jobs. Those are jobs where people are tinkering and building sensors and using the skills that you described, like your father had. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here today. And we're doing it across industries like energy, like agriculture, like healthcare. This is an incredible broad-based opportunity. And what we even know more is
you can hear Biden breathing.
They are more fulfilled. They are actually enjoying their ability to use their creative skills to customize sensors, to repair robots, to work in partnership with entrepreneurs in creating those actual technologies. It's a more fulfilling job. It's a higher wage job. It keeps them in communities, and it actually allows them to have family sustaining jobs where they were born and where they want to stay.
Mr. President, at Carnegie Mellon, I had the honor of you showing me around Carnegie Mellon. It's a great university for real. I'm not being solicitous. Are you working with smaller outfits like the community colleges in the region? And talk to me about the sort of coordination between a great national university like yours and a community college in a community.
First of all, Mr. President, thank you very much for your leadership. It's good to be with you. There are two aspects of it that I want to highlight. On one hand, what we're trying to do is to bring robotics and automation to small and medium-sized enterprises. As you alluded to, the digital transformation is taking place, and it's really having a ripple effect across so many sectors of our economy. So we're bringing those technologies and know-how to agriculture, to construction, to energy, to healthcare, to manufacturing, mining, and transportation. So that element, bringing those skills and technologies to small and medium enterprises to make them more competitive is extremely important. It's extremely important for the nation because we live in a global world.
Still waiting on press secretary.
The second element of it that you
Good Lord
has to do with upskilling and reskilling the workforce. And in this case, we're working with community colleges, we're working on curriculum development, we're working on various ways that we can bring along the workers and retrain them and upskill them to be ready for these new jobs that are going to be created. It's extremely important to recognize that as we adapt these new technologies,
Biden's bored. I know I'm bored.
Enterprises, we have the workforce that's going to be ready to take those jobs. So the coordination with community colleges, with labor unions, especially in our core urban areas, and as Madam Secretary alluded to, in 11 counties that surround us is part of our mission and what we're committed to. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Snore.
Well, let me ask you, how's this going to play out on the political scene? As a county executive, what are you going to be able to tell folks about what's happening with this $62 million?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. What we can tell people is President Biden continues to invest in people and in jobs and in our future. First of all, congratulations on another great jobs report. I mean, we shouldn't just go over that real quickly. 10 million jobs in your year and a half tenures is really unbelievable. And a lot of them have been created right here in southwestern Pennsylvania. And as Stephanie and President Connie had mentioned, it's not just for the robotics software engineer in Pittsburgh. It is for the small town in Westmoreland County, in Beaver County, the manufacturing facilities that are transitioning, and the type of training that can happen throughout our community college, but for families. And I know you talk about this all the time, and it's so important. It's about hope and for the future, for the next generation who are out there.
That girl is creeping me
what's
out.
What's going to happen?
She keeps smiling all weird.
Going to, could happen, and the changes over the next 10 to 15 years. This doesn't leave people behind, and we appreciate that very, very much. And by the way,
hey, thanks for the subscribe.
Monday at Labor Day. You're always here with us, and we're looking forward to it. We're guaranteeing good weather, Mr. President.
All right. All right. Sir, do you have anything you'd like to add about what's going on in the community?
Well, sure. I think what's important about this is,
let's go, press
as you
conference.
spoke to, Mr. President, often people think that robotics and AI are leaving people behind. But we're being really intentional, both demographically within our communities, people of color and women, and also in our rural communities about how do we connect people to inclusive career pathways, but also actually connecting them to business development opportunities in the robotics and AI industry, which traditionally they may not have had access to. So what we're really doing is being intentional about figuring out how do we make these connections and really making this an economy for all. So thank you, Mr. President.
Well, one of the things, if I may, having been a significant consumer of healthcare and having family members who needed serious
all right, they
healthcare,
change it to beginning shortly.
One of the things that
they're waiting for him to wrap it up.
In the healthcare side, most docs will tell you
ridiculous
that when people get a diagnosis that is very dire, they need really a navigator. They need someone to help them know when to go to what appointment, what the appointments are for, how to, just explain what's going on. It seems to me we need some navigators here. And I'm wondering how you're doing that. I mean, you have someone, let's say there's someone, we were doing this on a local Pittsburgh television station, and someone listening and saying, well, I'd like to get trained. I mean, how are you reaching out to the community? And do we have essentially, whatever they want to call them, navigators? Say, look, here's the way you can get into this. This is what you do. Or people going into those small businesses that are going to be eventually displaced because of technology.
What up, fellow authority? Nazi bastard.
And say, this is what you, I mean, is there thought about that?
That's hilarious.
Absolutely, Mr. President. Thank you for that question. And that really is the spirit of, as I was talking about earlier,
I know.
our project and the way our part.
Bob, I'm thinking about adding to the gulag and all my subscribers' names in a gulag somewhere. We'll all be in the same place.
Most of our money is actually going out to neighborhoods and communities, so they can actually use the organizations that know.
I'm waiting for the press conference to start because I feel like the press conference might be a little fiery. And so I thought, you know what, this will be exciting to go on. But, you know, of course, it was supposed to start about 20 minutes ago. Looks like Joey's, yeah.
They know where those manufacturers are, and they understand their readiness to adopt technologies. They will come together.
Papa, do you like that YouTube censored your first chat? It's not me.
And creation of products.
I love that I can still
actually
see
be
it, though.
deployed. We also have our lead accelerator entity in the region that's creating a new model of startup.
You said a no word.
With anchor maker spaces throughout the community.
I'll save you a sledgehammer. Thank you.
Opportunities to create new technologies.
Honestly, sometimes when I'm at the gym and I'm working out, I'm like, am I just getting in shape for the next World War III? Or am I getting in shape for the Gulag? What's going on?
By a way.
And all these like overweight leftists are going to be like in the prime positions. And because I decide to be healthy, I'm screwed.
Curriculum partnerships, the workers to the table for those jobs. So we're really relying on, as I said, 200 entities and partners who know how to navigate and know where the businesses are and know where the people are to make sure we have a marriage and alignment.
A marriage.
One of the things I'd raised,
not
raised with the secretary, but I've raised with you guys and everyone who's part of this grant effort. I think it's
I'm
useful,
honored. Sometimes being a zero-tier YouTuber.
Think about it.
That's true.
25 years ago, 30.
You're not a zero-tier. Get out of there. I've been doing this for like 2 years now, and so the grind is for real, Papa.
How to work with your hands, where you
learning what you like to do
carpentry or automobile
is tough, man.
You know, just to get a sense.
Make sure you do it for yourself, not
really
for others, or else
we should be talking.
If you do it for others the whole time, you're going to be consumed about numbers and what everyone thinks of you and stuff like that. So have fun with it, whatever you do.
Know how things are changing and what may be available down the road. And I know I'm taking this longer than I should.
Yeah, you are. Hurry up.
A guy who's been talking about transition for a long time with me has been Joe Manchin. He's he lives, breathes, and
sheep's
West
and wolf's
Virginia.
clothing.
But Joe, how's this going to help, if it is, the West Virginia and the transition to a strengthened, not totally new, but a new economy?
Yeah. Well, Mr. President, you and I have spoken many times about this when you first came into office, even when you was running at that time, about how West Virginians felt they were left behind. My wonderful state and all the great workers and the people in my state that have worked hard and they're very proud, they've done the heavy lifting for years and years and years. And basically, they never complained.
I know.
And as things started changing.
No doubt, but I'd rather be unknown if it means going. I get publicly called Nancy Pelosi. Yeah, that's true. I do understand that feeling.
Around that, and it's pumping into an area which is, we call it the.
You don't want to show your beautiful face, Papa?
Technology, or the Act Now Coalition, which is led by Brandon Dennis, and Brandon's here with us, and he's done a tremendous job.
God, wrap it up.
Coalfield Development Corporation. It's
I gotta go back to work.
Reinventing, not just reinventing, but basically being able to meet the needs of the public as we transition and making sure that we can provide the services. That's what they've been doing for quite some time. And this announcement here and this rescue plan, the American Rescue Plan, continues to play benefits for West Virginia. But also your co-chair of Appalachian Regional Commission, Gail Manchin, who I know very well, is very, very proud that Appalachia has gotten so much consideration and assistance. And you're the first person, Mr. President, and with your most capable secretary and our dear friend Gina Raimondo, directing it to the people that need it the most. I think that's what we're here to say is thank you. These 21 counties have eight regional projects. I have with us here on the panel, I have my dear friend Amy Goodwin, chairman. She's
to go make some more coffee.
Charleston.
Oh, did they pop on the video?
Steve Williams,
I was like, who's coffee?
Colleague of mine, and he is mayor of Huntington, our two largest cities. And we have with us also Stephanie Tyree, and she's the West Virginia Hub Director that works directly with these projects.
I'm taking a peanut break at work myself. Nice. I'll have to miss the Theater of Schmug Delusions. Yeah.
2.8.
Honestly, that's the reason why I went live. I thought, you know what, this is gonna probably be pretty fiery, or interesting, or it's just gonna be insane. I don't know. But last night, the press has got to ask a bunch of questions about the theatrics of it all, the red lighting, the Marines in the background, the protesters in the back. Any thoughts of that? I mean, there's so many questions to ask Joe Biden. Is this the new move by the Democrat Party just to say the other side of the aisle is basically terrorists. Like, there's so many questions to ask, or, you know, terrorist, extremists, whatever word you want to use.
Cars, and Debbie Stabenow and I talk about that a lot. And I said, Debbie, you wouldn't have a car if it wasn't for the coal and the steel that we produce to send you the material that you need to make the car. So we're all hooked to the hip here. And as the transition goes on, the investments that are being made, the 48C tax credit is going to put $4 billion on additionally back into coal-hit communities, so we can diversify and attract more business there. So I just can't tell you how much this means, Mr. President, and I'm just so proud to be part of this, and also so proud of what the ARP has done, American Rescue Plan, and so.
The pull an old Neil Breen. No, that's not true. Yeah, exactly.
So many people don't know how much is in there. It's going to trans.
Like yesterday with, was it yesterday or 2 days ago with Karine Jean was like, people aren't walking across the border, Peter. They're not walking. He's like, yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. Like, what the frick? Even I know that.
But look,
we could do this all day, but
the point, let me conclude by saying,
she's trying to wrap it up and Biden keeps talking.
this is not going to
Jack, what up?
waste money, what we're talking about each year doing. It's going to grow the economies. It's going to keep us in a position where we are the
All
most
right,
advanced
I'm going to make some
economy
coffee.
in
I'm
the
going to be right
world.
back. I'm going to keep this
And
on
when we
now.
bring
I'm going to keep
along the
popping in and
people
out. I got to hit the
who
floor
have made this
saying,
country.
hey, see ya, Papa.
You know,
I'm gonna make
joke,
coffee.
and I
I'm gonna
don't
keep
wanna-
it going
I
now.
shouldn't get
Okay?
political, but let me put it this way. The people who built the country are hardworking people who work with the sweat of their brow and their hands, and they're the ones that created a middle class. And I think this is going to enable that same group of people, like most of us were raised by, to be able to have an opportunity to continue to do well and to take us through this next phase. Because, you know, there's that, Joe and my colleagues in the Senate used to always kid me for quoting Irish poets, but all's changed. It's changed utterly. A terrible beauty's been born, as the Irish poet said. And we've got to take advantage of it, and I think we can. I really, genuinely think we can. And I look forward to meeting all of you at some point along the way, and we're going to continue to keep this moving because there's $3 billion total in this, and it's going to grow the economy. Everybody's better off. When you grow the economy, everybody from the local drugstore to the local supermarket to the local church, everything grows. And that's what this is about. Anyway, thank you all. Thank you.
If I can say one thing to you, Mr. President.
Yes.
Thank you for not forgetting and not leaving anybody behind. I can't tell you how much this means to our hardworking people in West Virginia. And they are truly appreciative in the families able to stay where they love and their heritage and
just
and
making
their
some
roots
coffee
are.
because this has been
So many of them had to leave. You've given them that opportunity.
Still waiting
and you
on
didn't forget,
the press
and you
conference
kept
to
that
start.
promise, and I appreciate it.
Is he still
Joe,
talking?
Remember, I'm from hard coal country, Scranton. Right. Okay, anyway, thank you all.
Yeah,
so
you're a multimillionaire.
very, very
You know
much.
exactly
Thank
what
you.
it's like to be the average everyday human
everybody,
being.
and
Sure.
We're excited to work with you to make all of this a huge success.
Oh my God,
Thank
Biden!
Mr.
If you
President.
swear to God, if you
Thanks.
butt in one more time,
All right.
go away. Oh, the press is trying to ask him questions right now. Nope, denied. Now the press has got to walk to the other side of the building. Oh my God, it's like. All right, as we wait, I'm trying to find something to look at. How you guys doing today? Get in the chat. Brain dead fossil. Yeah, he is. Let's see if there's any like live news right now. Explore. How you doing this Friday? Don't worry. Don't forget we have a live stream later tonight. We'll go through news and stuff like that later this afternoon, and we'll hang out and have a good time. Is this live? Yeah. Cool. So we gotta have something in the background.
Lizzo, you put a smile on every single face.
It feels
Oh
like
my
Christmas
God.
or my birthday or something.
Don't forget we have a live show later today, and it's Friday, so some retro video games will be on board. We're just going to hang out and have fun. Freaking Fridays. Fridays are always interesting. Friday morning, there'll be a lot of clips to go through for the show later tonight, though. So I hope you guys are strapped in, ready to roll. I have my podcast I just finished for the day. It's going to be up on all social media platforms and on audio as well. So check that out. Just talking about the speech last night and what I learned while watching it live on here. And we're still waiting for this. You know what? It's just ridiculous.
Good morning, I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers right now on Morning News Now.
We're staying on top of the breaking situation in Ukraine.
We are watching dangerous heat this week. Recession, I mean, is that where we're headed? Is there any way to avoid that?
Morning News Now, streaming weekdays at 7.
All right, my coffee's done. I'm going to go get my coffee. I'll be right back. BRB.
Still waiting for the job that is his birthright.
Do we want Charles? Do we want a monarchy?
I'm Keir Simmons, and we'll take on these questions and more in our new podcast, Born to Rule. Listen now.
We're here to start conversations because it's not my job to tell you what to think. My job is to think about what you tell me.
Well, it's not completely done.
Joshua Johnson, weeknights at 8 on NBC News Now.
We're here to start conversations because it's not my job to tell you what to think. My job
Jack,
is
how
to
you doing
think
today?
about what you tell me.
Now tonight with Joshua Johnson, weeknights at 8 on NBC
Appreciate
News
your
Now.
comments, brother.
Top Story with Tom Llamas is your news playlist on NBC News Now. And now, you can listen to it as a podcast. Available anytime and anywhere. Hallie Jackson Now. Weekdays at 5 on NBC News Now.
No stress, no mess, just yum.
That's it.
Okay, now my coffee's done.
Top Story with Tom Llamas. Weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
You don't know when your moment's coming, but when it does, you take it.
A 78-year-old woman was violently attacked by a New York City livery driver. Video captures the moment right after Karine Jean-Pierre was thrown from the vehicle. We should warn you, this is disturbing. A Good Samaritan does attempt to help her. Here's NBC News' reporter Julie Sirkin with the story.
A shocking incident.
Guys, what's going on?
Call the police! They robbed my phone!
Can you give her the phone? Can you give her the phone? This is an old woman.
Please!
Hello?
Please!
Can you not do that? Can you not stop and run away? You're gonna have to run over. Whoa! Whoa!
The horrifying moments captured on camera and posted to Twitter of an accessorized driver dragging his 78-year-old passenger out of the car.
This is an old woman.
The dispute starting when the taxi driver, identified by his employer as Mohammed Ahmed El Sakran, drove past the woman's destination, according to the NYPD. Police say Karine Jean-Pierre asked him to go back, but he refused, pulling her out and onto the ground instead.
Call the police!
You can see the woman struggling to get up, her cane in hand.
They robbed my phone!
A Good Samaritan intervening to help her, and he too was allegedly struck by the driver, according to police.
You're gonna have to run over. Whoa! Whoa! I was just trying to stop him from leaving. Obviously, in hindsight, it wasn't a good idea.
Police say the woman was taken to a local hospital and is expected to recover. Access a Ride provides free or low-cost transportation for New Yorkers who have disabilities, preventing them from using public buses and subways. The city's Taxi and Limousine Commission, which licenses and regulates for-hire vehicles, suspending the driver's license. The agency also saying in a statement that it is working with the NYPD on their investigation. Mrs. Shine, who was on her way to a physical therapy appointment, had never used an accessorized car service before, her daughter says.
Amazing woman. She really was very brave to, and
crazy. Ooh. The Nicholas.
Yes.
Cruz trial is
threatened
on?
to fight other students, correct?
I don't recall a conversation where they specifically said he threatened to fight other students or...
You don't recall that?
Yeah, no.
Okay. Were you aware that he would, in class, tell the teacher to go F themselves? Were you aware of that kind of behavior?
Yes.
Okay. With all that behavior, wouldn't you agree that and other students are seeing that behavior as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Would you agree that that's antisocial behavior?
Object to requesting a diagnosis.
I'm not asking a diagnosis.
I'm sorry, hold on a second. You're using that term as a description of behavior?
A description. Maladaptive behavior, antisocial behavior.
Okay, the objections are overruled.
Sure.
Okay, it's certainly not pro-social behavior, is it?
Correct.
Okay, and other children seeing that would certainly be bullied by someone who's acting like that in class with such a degree of behavior, correct?
I don't know if the term is, can you ask that question a different way, please?
I'll move on. Miss Cruz was told about that behavior, but she would dismiss it, correct?
Crazy. All right, we gotta watch something fun. NBC, see what ABC's talking about.
Thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
Take America's #1 news with you anywhere you go, anytime, free.
Oh, heck yeah. Let's watch India news. This is always exciting.
Are divided in between with a white lining. One is the red one, the other is the yellow one. 2 runways are there. One is a shorter one, the other a longer one. The shorter one for operations to be launched quickly when the aircraft can fly without a payload. But if an offensive operation is to be launched with a heavy payload, that's when the longer runway has to be used. It's still going to take at least 4 months for air operations to start on INS Vikrant.
Are they starting? No.
A special welcome was given to the new warship from the air, a flypast by helicopters and fighter jets in the presence of Prime Minister Modi and other dignitaries. The brand new aircraft carrier is named after its illustrious predecessor, the original INS Vikrant, that played a defining role in India's war with Pakistan in 1971. Today, India screams Shano Varuna. May the gods of the oceans be auspicious unto us. With Abhishek Bhalla in Kochi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Which also is our image of the day, because Prime Minister Modi also unveiled the Indian Navy's new ensign in Kochi. The St. George's Cross has been removed from the Indian Navy's new flag. It now features the tricolour and the national emblem. The emblem is inside an octagonal shield. Beneath it is the Navy's motto, Shamo Varna, the golden border surrounding the national emblem inspired by the seal of the one and only Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. That's the new seal, and it is a proud day for the Indian Navy. Thanks for watching. Stay well, stay safe. Good night, Shubhratri, Jai Hind, Namaskar. Have a good weekend. Bye.
I love the Indian news network. It's always so crazily edited. It's like always insane.
Get all wiped away. But how do you know if you qualify? And if you do, how do you make sure that debt actually disappears? We've got all kinds of answers for you. Personal finance expert and former Wall Street trader Vivian Tu is here. You probably know her as I do, your rich BFF. She's on social media. I'm a big follower, big fan. I love the little bite-sized tips that you give people. So I'm going to break this down. So the Biden administration says when it comes to student loan debt forgiveness.
Let's see what... They usually do a pre-game of the stream, Washington Post, so we can see if people are actually sitting down or not. Like, okay.
The box is up here, the bag's back there. Yep. To that door and see the numbers.
2 minutes to the press briefing. 2 minutes to the press briefing.
2 minutes. Finally. Get a freaking update around here, Dad.
Thank you. Yeah. It should be. I haven't punched it out. Yeah, I saw it. They saw it though when they checked us in. But I don't know if it's punched out. Am I punched out?
There's just so many things going on. Right.
What up, Find It, Fix It? They are goofy. How you doing today? We've been waiting an hour for them to be late to this. It's ridiculous. Chicago right now is live talking about safety measures for Labor Day weekend. Oh my God. Dude, I remember living in Chicago during Labor Day weekend, and it was always insane how many people were shot over the weekend. It's just crazy. It's always like the last hurrah before the winter. Like, that city has such a huge problem. Lori Lightfoot is such a disaster as a human being and as a politician. You're doing okay? All right. As long as you're not doing bad. Well, hopefully we can share a laugh. Find It, Fix It. What's the word of the day? What word are we going to scream if she says? I'm thinking Nazi. What do you think? Tell me. Get in the chat. Tell me what the word of the day should be. What's everybody's not done with their lunch? Yeah, it seems like it. No, we had to wait for Biden to... Biden just got done with a little... talking about the rescue plan with summit with a bunch of leaders, and Joe Manchin was part of it and stuff like that. And they were all getting together, and he kept asking questions. And so it just kept going longer. And the questions, he was reading the questions from the sheet. And my favorite was that he would read the question. You could see him looking down. He was like reading it while they were answering it. And then he would lean back and then have like a subtle approach to the question. Like he just came up with it on the spot. Oh, it was so silly. But he kept asking questions. We never got up. You live in a small Texas town? That's awesome. Good for you, man. But what's our word of the day? See, I'm thinking it's Nazi. But YouTube doesn't like that word, so maybe we can come up with something different. MAGA No, we'll scream that too much. MAGA Republicans.
Good afternoon, everybody. Okay. So I am pleased to announce that on Friday, September 16th, President Cyril Ramaphosa to the White House. The leaders building on their productive call in April and the U.S.-South Africa Strategic Dialogue in August will reaffirm the importance of our enduring partnerships and discuss opportunities to deepen cooperation on trade and investment, infrastructure, climate and energy, and health. We look forward to a productive visit. President Biden's special envoy for the Horn of Africa, Ambassador Mike Hammer, will travel to Ethiopia starting this weekend to engage on the crisis in northern Ethiopia. Special Envoy Hammer will convey that all parties should halt military operations and engage in peace talks. We condemn Eritrea's re-entry into the conflict, the continuing TPLF offensive outside Tigray, and the Ethiopian government's airstrikes. There is no military solution to the conflict. Prior to renewed hostilities, we were encouraged by 5 months of humanitarian truce and are now deeply concerned about the seizure of humanitarian assistance of military use. All parties should exercise restraint, and we urge de-escalation by all actors, particularly so that there can be a resumption of humanitarian relief and basic services to all parties in need. Last but not least, I also wanted to share some very sad news to report for the press team. This is the final day of our good friend and invaluable colleague, Alexandra Lamana's detail with us. As you know, we have rotating details from different agencies. Alexandra succeeded Brittany Kaplan at a pivotal time, coming to us from Treasury and taking the lead for the press team on our response to the Supreme Court, overturning Roe v. Wade, as well as the ensuing attacks on women's fundamental rights from elected Republicans in Congress, and also all over the country. Her expertise on economic issues has also been a huge asset for us in the press office. We're going to miss her talent, her sense of strategy, her sense of humor, and her work ethic, which speaks to how lucky we have been to have her on our team. We're going to miss you, Alex. Okay, with that.
All right, here we go. Let's get a little spicy.
Water crisis in Mississippi. Last night, the president said, quote, "We've offered every single thing available to Mississippi, and the governor has to act." Can you elaborate on that a little bit? What does the president think Governor Reeves has to do now that he has not yet done regarding the crisis?
So let me just say a couple of things to give you all an update. So FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell is in Jackson, Mississippi today to assess the ongoing emergency response operations. She will be joined by Infrastructure Coordinator Mitch Landrieu and other federal officials. I know she will be providing an update from the ground a little bit later today. FEMA, EPA, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers continue to deploy personnel to support the state's emergency response and identify longer-term solutions to improve the infrastructure. As far as water distribution goes, I know some folks had questions about that. FEMA has a number of personnel on site in the State Emergency Operations Center and is coordinating with the Mississippi Emergency Management Team to ensure that everyone has access to water. As you know, the president took immediate action to approve the governor's emergency declaration request and directed his team to surge assistance to Mississippi. The president and the vice president both spoke with the mayor of Jackson this week, and that's the update of where we are. Again, we are determined to continue to provide all of the assistance, needed assistance for the people of the state of Mississippi, and specifically for the people of Jackson as they go through this
subscribe if you're
really
new.
Tough time on the ground. So we're going to continue to do the work.
What did he mean by saying the governor has to act? And so he issued the emergency declaration, obviously, but what more should Governor Reeves be doing that the White House clearly thinks is not doing?
Well, look, I mean, as you know, there's funding that we've provided through the American Rescue Plan for upgrades across the state, which is about $450 million. The city has allocated $20 million, of its ARP funds for water and sewer infrastructure needs, and there is about $30.9 million through the EPA's revolving loan funds for treatment and distribution system improvements for Jackson available right now. So the state has the $75 million this year through the bipartisan infrastructure law to provide clean and safe water this year, with a total of $429 million available to the state over the next 5 years. So we're looking across the federal government to see what else we can do. But you know, again, this administration, we're committed. The emergency that we're currently seeing in Jackson shows how long deteriorating water infrastructure can quickly turn into an emergency, as Mayor Lumumba said. And this is a result of decades of underinvestment. So that is why the president is making this a priority. So look, there's funding there that the state can tap into for infrastructure needs, a bipartisan funding law, infrastructure law that the president worked very hard.
Yeah, just throw money at it. It'll be fine.
To make sure we deal with these types of long-term issues. And so we think that, that should be happening. That should be moving forward.
And can you talk about why the president has not spoken directly with Governor Reeves at this point? You mentioned he's spoken with the mayor, so has the vice president, but why has that communication between President Biden and Governor Reeves not happened at this point?
I mean, look, as I said, the FEMA administrator spoke to the governor this week, and the president has spoken to the mayor of Jackson. The conversations are happening. There's communication. As you mentioned in your question, the governor did ask for our federal assistant, took the official step doing the declaration, and we responded. We surged the emergency funding, or emergency resources, I should say, to the state of Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi in particular, because of the urgent need that they have, and we'll keep you abreast if there's any conversation that is coming in the upcoming days, or that may be happening. But we'll hear from FEMA administrator later today. But right now, as you just stated, there just have not been a call.
Hey, Karine. The president last night argued very forcefully that democracy is under assault, but what kind of concrete actions does he actually plan to take, given that he described this essentially as a fairly existential threat to the American Republic?
So, as you also heard from the president yesterday, he believes we're at an inflection point, and so that's an important thing why he wanted to make sure he gave that speech. But you also heard the president express optimism, right, about the future of America, which was something that was important for him to deliver to the American people. That he believes there isn't nothing we can. That's a nice little spin there. He believes that we can do everything, anything, as a country, and we have seen throughout our history, America has made its greatest progress out of the darkest times. We see that before. One way, of course, we can do that is by making our voices heard, and he said that. He said that the American people have a choice, but it wasn't just a policy speech. Obviously, the president believes that we can make great progress out of the darkest moments, and he calls on all Americans, regardless of which side of the aisle you sit on, regardless
unless you're
of which
MAGA,
ideology
unless you're MAGA,
follow, regardless of the political persuasion, to unite around democracy. And he thought it was an important message, again, an inflection point, and that was the message that he delivered. Again, giving people a choice and saying to folks, we need to come together and make sure our voices are heard.
So
you have a choice
to vote and make their voices heard. The president has no plan to confront this threat that he described very forcefully last night.
I mean, it's not the first time he's confronted or spoke about this threat. He's done it multiple times at multiple stages during the last 3 years, during his campaign, a couple times as well during his administration, and he'll continue to lift that up when he feels it's needed. But what the president did last night was incredibly powerful. It was clear, it was concise, it was steadfast, which is, and he did it a prime time, as you all know, to the American people, speaking directly to them that this is a time for us to come together.
Right, what I'm asking is if there's any action behind his words.
Well, the action is making your voices heard. That is a powerful action. We have seen it across time. We have seen it throughout our American history, that making your voices heard actually can change the direction of a country. So I would say that is the most powerful tool that we have as a country right now.
And I know you guys have addressed this to a certain extent, but because you're behind the podium, if you could address the criticisms and the questions about why the president delivered what sounded very much like a politically charged speech as an official White House event, taxpayer funded, with 2 Marines in uniform in particular flanking him and visible on camera throughout the
So
speech.
I'll take your first question. Look,
but not that last part.
Here, and I would argue the way many Americans across the country see it, standing up for democracy is not political.
40% approval rating.
Denouncing political violence is not political. Defending rights and freedom is not political. Making clear that the challenges facing the nation is not political.
I'm not sure you know what that word means.
That political. We see that
we
as
don't call
leadership,
it.
and we see that as presidential. To your question about the Marines, look, The president gave an important speech last night, a critical speech, and at an inflection point. And, our democracy, our values that our men and women who protect us every day and fight for it every day believe in as well. The presence of the Marines at the speech was intended to demonstrate the deep and abiding respect that the president has for these service members, to these ideals, and the unique role our independent military plays in defending our democracy.
Why were the Marines there?
Which party is in power. Again, no matter which party is in power. And it is not abnormal. It is actually normal for presidents from either
They were
side of
concerned
the
about
aisle
the
to
Marines
give
so much so
speeches
she
in
was
front of
given
members
a
of the
talking
military,
point.
and including
That's how serious they were.
Ronald Reagan, President George H.W. Bush.
Or altering the way we think it's not political.
Unusual,
Exactly.
Sight, or is not an unusual event to have happen. I'm gonna move around. You asked 3 questions.
It's like too much.
You asked 3 questions. I did. No. I answered the first question. You just, I had to just dive in a little bit more, but I certainly answered it because I said making your voices heard is a powerful tool. I answered it the first time you asked. I'm going to go ahead and answer.
Gosh, no, you didn't.
Thanks so much, Karine. Just on the Treasury Department's oil price cap, I'm wondering, will the president be making any personal appeals to world leaders to jump on this Russian oil price cap policy?
So let me just give you a couple things at the top, because this is a really important first step. And so we're moving from exploring a price cap on Russia oil to gaining an agreement with G7 nations, making up 50% of the global economy, to implement one. A global price cap will help us accomplish our 2 goals. The first one is significantly reduce Putin's biggest source of revenue for his war chest. Number 2, ensure that oil continues to flow into the market at lower prices and supply meets demand. The impact of our efforts to implement a price cap is already bearing fruit. Reports show that Russia is already offering steep discounts, as much as 30%.
Everyone is ultra mega
contracts to some countries. This also demonstrates that Russia is planning to continue supplying its oil and willing to swallow bigger discounts. A price cap will give more countries better leverage to strike bargain with deals with Russia. We will further work in the upcoming weeks to determine the price cap level, release further information, including technical guidance for market participation, and announce our coalition partners as well. A price cap on Russian oil is a powerful tool, one part of the tool in our agenda to put downward pressure on global energy prices in a way that will benefit consumers in the U.S. and globally, and we are determined to implement this policy in a way that achieves those goals. We're going to let folks who are working on this continue the work. This was, again, a very big step forward, and we'll have more in the upcoming days. As you know, this is something that the Treasury is leading, the U.S. Treasury is leading.
But is the president himself going to ask world leaders to sign on to this?
Well, here's the thing. The president started this conversation, as you know, in Europe when we were in Germany at the G7. So this is part of the president's leadership. He moved this forward. He started this conversation.
Make sure to smash a like and subscribe if you're new.
The Treasury and our administration is going to continue to have those conversations. We'll have more, clearly, we always share more. If the president's going to put out a statement, we'll let you know.
Where does the president think the line should be drawn for having members of the military who could be perceived as being part of stagecraft for an address?
Come on.
The former president was criticized for using military many different times in many different settings. And you're right, there have been other instances and other presidents where members of the military, especially here at the White House, but to be at a location in Pennsylvania where the Marines are not normally stationed, where does the president see the line for having members of the military included?
So, I just want to be very clear. As you know, the president was at Independence Hall, and you know the history. I'm going to repeat it, but I know you know the history, which is where some of our documents of some of our most critical rights
racist documents
were debated and were drafted. And so being at Independence Hall for this president, and you follow this president, you know how
she's not going to talk about the military.
How
she's going to skate right over that.
You know how he is as an elected official. He believes that it is important for him to speak very loudly, to have actually the loudest voice when it comes to our democracy.
What does this have to do with the Marines there?
For him, this was not a political speech.
What does this have to do with the Marines there? Nothing.
In prime time, to talk directly to the American people.
You're not answering the question.
And to be very clear with a clear voice, to talk about what is happening in our country today. And it was about our values as a country, about our democracy as a country. And so
you're not answering the question.
That is what the president wanted to convey. And he believes the men and women who wear the uniform and protect us every day, protect this country every day, that's what they fight for as well.
Come on,
and so
man.
This was an opportunity, as he's having this conversation, leveling, right, a level conversation with the American people, to do that. So just want to, that's really the best way that I can explain how the president was thinking about this last night. You know, when it comes to when it comes to the soul of the nation, this is something that the president has talked about, as I mentioned, for years. He has seen where we are headed as a country. He has been concerned where our democracy is going. And again, he took this opportunity to directly speak to the American people, understanding that the Marines who are standing behind him are, are men and women who believe in our democracy as well, who fight for it every day. So that's the thinking that I can give you behind that.
Oh, okay.
On the Mississippi issue, briefly, just following
Lion,
up
dog
on
face,
this
pony
question.
soldier.
Is there some tension between the president and Governor Reeves? Because this is obviously an ongoing health concern, day-to-day lifestyle concern, a real crisis for people in Mississippi. And the president seemed to be pointed in his comments. There hasn't been leader-to-leader direct communication. Is something getting in the way of the president and the governor speaking to each other, and is that necessary to further any assistance or progress on this issue?
I mean, look, it's not necessary to further any progress in this situation. FEMA director is on the ground today, who is part of the agencies that, if anything, leads the effort when it comes to natural disasters that we're seeing. In this case, it is an infrastructure issue that we're seeing in Jackson, Mississippi, and we're also going to have EPA officials on the ground as well. So it's not necessary to have a leader conversation. The federal government is going to do its job because of the president has put
typical when there's a crisis in a state, regardless of party, regardless of personal relationship.
Regardless of party, you're absolutely right. We've gone to other Republican governors who are in a state and have delivered emergency assistance many times, sadly, during these last 18 months.
Because been attempted and not been welcomed?
No, I don't have a call to preview. I don't have a call to read out to you at this time. I can tell you that regardless of a call, the president, as I just laid out with an update, is determined to help the people of Mississippi, in particular the people of Jackson, as they're dealing with this incredibly tough time. We have provided funding through bipartisan infrastructure law. We have provided funding through the American Rescue Plan that is going to, we believe, start the process of really dealing with an infrastructure issue that exists in Jackson, Mississippi. And we have said, I was asked about this yesterday, we are looking at all options to ensure that the people of Jackson have access to clean, safe drinking water. So that work is going to continue regardless if there is a call or not. Because the president, he says this all the time. You've heard him say this. He's the president for all Americans.
Except for MAGA.
He's going to make sure that we do everything that we can for the people in Mississippi.
Except for those evil terrorists.
Okay, go ahead.
Evil human beings.
I have a question about Jackson, and then also just following up on the speech yesterday. First with Jackson. So FEMA has, you've talked a lot about the infrastructure funding. FEMA basically has 2 climate resilience programs that received a boost from that infrastructure bill, one of them being BRIC. Jackson hasn't in the past 2 years filed applications for that program, still hasn't now. Has the administration asked the state whether or not those applications were blocked, or just asked why those applications haven't gone through yet?
So I'll say this, that is a question for FEMA. The FEMA director is going to be on the ground today, and I'm sure those many conversations will come up about ways that we can help the city of Jackson. She's going to, you all going to hear from her directly today, so I will leave it to her to answer that specific question, because you're asking about a specific program that I clearly don't have any information on it at this time. But the FEMA director, Director Criswell, is very good at her job. We have seen what she's been able to make happen over the last 19 months, and so we have confidence that she will get to the bottom and be as helpful as she can be, as we can be on the ground.
More broadly, just these smaller, poorer communities tend to not be able to hire the staff, don't have the infrastructure to actually navigate through this climate resilience system and get federal funding often. Years show this, when you go back and look at reporting as well. So I wonder what actual kind of stick does the administration have to, since so much of the power is with the states, that this funding actually gets to communities that need it after these.
So I spoke to this a little bit yesterday, and I'll talk about it now. We have put a real emphasis on making it easier for state and local government to access the federal savings, because when we talk about the president's economic plan, when we talk about lifting people from the bottom up and out, it has that in the middle of it equity, and you saw that in his response to his COVID response, and making sure that equity was at the center of that. And everything that you see from the American Rescue Plan, from the bipartisan infrastructure law, for everything that we have dealt with as we talk about the economy, we want to make sure we do not leave anybody behind. And so one of the reasons we've asked every state to appoint a state infrastructure coordinator to help streamline communications and information flow. So one of the other administration officials who's on the ground is Mitch Landrieu, who runs that team. And so he'll be on the ground, he'll be having those conversations. And so having that coordinator is incredibly important as we engage directly with, again, state, local governments, and tribal governments as well, to help.
It's incredible how many jobs are created within the government to accomplish a task.
And capacity to underserved communities, to your point.
Literally ridiculous.
We have also partnered with non-for-profits. That's another way that we have found a way to assist communities in accessing and deploying these federal infrastructure funding, including Bloomberg Philanthropies, Emerson Collective, Ford Foundation, so many more people that we are partnering with, so that folks in underserved communities could get that funding. So our goal, again, is to help local, state, tribal, and territorial governments navigate and access and deploy infrastructure resources that will build a better community and a better America. So again, there's a coordinator that is connected to getting that bipartisan infrastructure law.
That's something I would say.
You're going to hear from Mitch Landrieu, you're going to hear from Criswell, Director Criswell, Administrator Criswell, who are both down there today, and we will hear a lot more on what we can do as an administration.
And I just have to follow on the speech yesterday, just to follow up on this point, noting that rhetoric and delivering speeches can, I understand the kind of inspirational kind of motivation factor there, but just frankly, can the American people expect any sort of policy rollout underlying the speech yesterday in the days ahead to actually address the threat to democracy?
Great question. Look, I think what the
if it's a threat, then do something about it. That's what I was trying to get at.
Before is give.
Sounds like you're poking the bear.
How do we move forward?
You have a choice
in this inflection point. And one of the ways that we have seen time and time again in history,
you have a choice to be a good little boy or bad little boy.
Have their voices heard, and that comes in many different ways. And he believes, as president,
Lion, dog, face, pony,
It is
soldier.
important for him to be very clear and direct and to fight the hardest for our democracy. And so that is what you saw. You saw a very strong message from the president. It was clear what he was saying to the American people. It's time to take a
He was
stance.
clear.
It's time,
You aren't right
to
now.
take action.
What
And,
action?
and we also
What
see
action?
that. We see that
What are we
from
taking?
polling about what the American people are anxious about, what they care about is
You.
our democracy.
We're
So
anxious
it is
about
not
you.
unusual. It is something that we have seen over the last several weeks. And so, the president's going to continue to have those conversations, and he's going to continue to make sure that he makes that clear.
Well, what's the administration's action besides telling people to go vote?
Well, I think we should not underestimate
Be careful.
what that can do. The power of the bully pulpit, the power of the president, and that action that he took last night, and what that could make happen, what that could lead to. And we've seen that in the past. This is not unusual, right, to have a speech like this and to encourage people to act, to send a message so that so that the American people understand what is happening in this country. And so again, the presidency believes that it is his job to level with the American people about threats he sees to our nation and our values, and that's what you heard from him last night. And we believe it indeed resonated. And so again, this is something that he's going to continue to do. It is a powerful message that was delivered by the president. I'm going to continue. Go ahead, Joey.
Yeah, thank you, Karine. Isn't the speech in which the president concludes by saying vote, vote, vote inherently political? He wasn't referring to voting
100%.
for any candidates. He wasn't saying vote for Dr. Oz. He was saying vote to reject the MAGA forces. I mean, isn't that a political speech?
We don't think it's a political speech. When I was here yesterday, I actually said that he would mention voter participation and getting folks out there to make your voices heard. I said that at the podium yesterday when I was asked what this speech was going to be all about. And look, that is the most powerful tool. The most powerful tool that Americans have is to make sure their voices are heard. It is. It is the most powerful action that an American voter, can take. And so that is what he is asking the American people to do. I'm going to continue. Because I've answered that question a few times. Okay, go to a different topic.
Looking ahead to the Labor Day events that the president has, one in Pittsburgh, one in Milwaukee. Will the president be speaking at those events? And is he going to be continuing the message we heard yesterday, or talking more of an economic theme? What should we expect from the president on those days? And will he be appearing with the respective Senate candidates, Fetterman and Mandela Barnes in Wisconsin?
So I don't want to get ahead of what the president's going to say. As you just mentioned, he'll be in Wisconsin and in Pennsylvania on Monday for the Labor Day activities that he'll be participating in. I'm sure we will be hearing from the president. Don't want to get ahead of what he will say, and we'll have more to share on who will be attending, as we normally do. I don't have anything to share at this time. Okay. Go ahead.
Hey, great. Yeah, thank you. On social media companies, did the administration give Twitter and Facebook talking points over flagging what the president describes as misinformation?
Say that one more time.
Has the administration helped Twitter and Facebook with talking points about what the administration believes is misinformation, or how much coordination is there between the administration and social media companies?
So I don't have anything to share with you on that, and I'm not going to comment on that right this time.
You're a lion, dog, face, pony,
generals
soldier.
from Missouri and Louisiana said there's a vast censorship enterprise across a multitude of federal agencies.
Yeah, I'm just not going to comment at this time.
On another topic then, so under President Biden, you saw student test scores have gone backwards. Inflation has gone the wrong direction. Workers' real wages have come down. We're seeing spending on programs, and promises that at some point in the future the transition will be over. What in the last 20 months? Where's the progress?
So as far as the economy, as you know, the jobs report came out today. You heard from the president as he was giving remarks at his event just now on the American Rescue Plan, the Build Back Better Challenge, dealing with 21 cities. And you heard from some of the folks who received the grant today, which is an important tool and it's going to change lives in Detroit, in Greenwood, Oklahoma, in areas that really need it. And so that is, again, another important piece of the American Rescue Plan that only Democrats voted for, and also the American Rescue Plan helped turn the economy back on. And that's why we have seen the success of our economic success
that's what turned
this
it back
past
on.
year. And
Not
you've
just
asked me
people
this
being
evening,
allowed to
I know
go
you
back to
follow
work.
economy, but look,
It still outpaces wages.
well, here, let me talk about the report a little bit, because there's some good stuff in here that kind of touches on what you just asked me. So, as you know, the good news is in August, the economy created 315,000 jobs, which is important. We have created nearly 10,000 million jobs since President Biden took office, which is the fastest job growth in history.
Crap.
So you're asking me, where's the success? Here it is. Wait, let me finish. Wait. Hold on. The share of Americans who are working, because that's part of the question that you just asked me, what economists call the labor force participation rate went up, and that's important. And for the first time, working age women, this is in the job report that we just saw today, are now back at work at rates not seen since before the pandemic. So the bottom line is jobs are up, wages are up, people are back to work, and we are seeing some hopeful signs that inflation may be beginning to ease. We saw that in July, right? From July to August, we saw that inflation was starting to ease. And you're talking about education. When the president walked into this administration, schools were closed. Businesses were closed. And a lot of that is because we were in the pandemic, but not just that. It was so mismanaged by the last administration that we had to get to work to make sure that we opened up the schools, which we were able to do. Nearly all schools were opened in the first 6 months, getting small businesses back open.
It's almost like they were together on that.
That was the work because of this president and Democrats. The American Rescue Plan helped do that. And it was mismanaged, what we saw by the last president, the way that he was handling the economy, the way they were handling COVID. And getting shots in arms, making sure that people were able to get back to work. That is just a fact. And so that is there more work to be done? Of course.
This
to bring
is
down
just
inflation?
a fact.
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons the president worked so hard to get the gas prices to come down. That's one of the reasons we worked so hard to get the Inflation Reduction Act, so we can bring down cost of prescription drugs. So all of these things took work and it took leadership. All right, I'm going to keep going. Go ahead.
That is just a fact.
Can you talk a little bit more about COVID, particularly what the White House is doing to make sure that Congress passes the COVID funding package, considering last time it didn't work out?
So as you know, there remains a pressing need for additional funding for our COVID-19 response. In March, to your point, we requested that Congress provide supplemental COVID-19 funding and repeatedly warned that without congressional action, we would be forced to make difficult trade-offs and reallocate existing funding to meet pressing needs. That is precisely what happened the most recently. For example, because of congressional inaction, the lack of additional funding has prevented us from adequately replenishing our national stockpile. At home, the tests, at-home test, which ends today, force us to suspend sending a free test to Americans and leaves our domestic testing capacity diminished for a potential fall surge. So while we have made tremendous progress in our ability to protect against and treat COVID-19, we must stay on our front foot, and that requires additional resources. So the updating funding request is for $22.4 $1.4 billion to meet immediate short-term domestic needs, including testing, accelerating the research and development of next-generation vaccines and therapeutics, prepare for future variants, and support the global response to COVID-19. So again, this funding is vital. We're going to continue to work with Congress. We feel that we have some time to make that happen. And so that is, in order to continue our progress and build on our progress, we're going to continue to fight for that funding.
That the White House is kind of doing differently to try to kind of change the outcome? I mean, what makes you think that there will be a different outcome?
So we think that there is, like last year, we were confident that Congress can reach a funding agreement, just like we did last year. So this is not new. And but with 1 month until the end of the fiscal year, it's clear that Congress will first need to pass a short-term continuing resolution to keep the federal government running and provide the time needed to reach an agreement on a full year funding bill. So we did it last year, and so we're confident that Congress can do it again.
Hi, Karine. At this hour, there's a report that Gina McCarthy, the president's climate advisor, is stepping down. Is there anything more you can tell us about that?
Yes, she is stepping down. Gina is indeed leaving us. She, as you know, has been a leader in what we have seen as one of the largest investment in dealing with climate change. She
saw what she had to do, and she was like, "I can't do it," and left.
In an administration, and we are very sad to lose her. We will have more to share, I'm sure, in the upcoming hours. But just to give a little bit of Gina, she's a public service, has extended decades across local and state and federal government, including as EPA administrator in the Obama-Biden administration. And she returned to public service recognizing the unique moment and eager to support the president at the beginning of this administration, especially as she sought to launch the first ever climate policy office and 21 plus agency task force to advance a whole of government approach to the climate crisis. And so we'll have more to share, but yes, that is something that I can confirm.
I want to ask you about something else. Yesterday, the Defense Department released a pretty disturbing report on the number of sexual assault incidents in the military. This report indicated an increase in particularly female service members who said that they experienced an unwanted sexual contact, and a decrease in the women who say that they trust the system to protect their privacy, trust the system to ensure their safety, and trust the system to treat them with dignity and respect. Has the president been presented with this report, and does he have confidence in the Defense Department's leadership to address these concerns?
So I can tell you that the president, this is a priority for the president. As you know, you've heard from him about this before. One sexual assault is one too many, and the president has been clear about making sure we implement real change to rid our ranks of this crime.
Can't stand talking points for actual real
that is
trauma.
Why he signed an executive order
angry.
in January 2022, making sexual harassment a named military offense, and it's why his fiscal year 23 budget request proposed $940 million for sexual assault prevention and response programs, including $479 million and more than 2,400 personnel to implement the recommendations of the Independent Review Commission. And for the first time in military history, beginning in December of next year, investigations and prosecutions of sexual assault and harassment will be taken out of the chain of command and placed in the hands of the independent special counsel. We understand there's more work to do, of course, as this new data demonstrates, but addressing the scourge of sexual assault in the military will continue to be a priority for the Department of Defense and this administration, and we're going to continue to do the work. I'm going to take one more question because we actually have to go. Go ahead.
I just wanted to follow up on the oil price cap. Could you say when that will be unveiled?
So I can say this, we believe the price cap will be successful in our goals of substantially curbing Russia's main source of revenue and lowering energy costs, because it offers multiple ways to achieve our goals. As far as any timing or timeline, as I said moments ago, that the U.S. Treasury will have more on that, so I point you to them. But we do believe this is an important big step forward.
Quickly on the Iran deal, are the main sticking points the closure of the IAEA probe and some kind of guarantees for foreign companies that if the U.S. were to leave the deal again, there would be like a wind down period for contracts?
So let me just give you a little bit on the status of this. You know, we have taken deliberate and principled approach to these negotiations from the start. You know, if Iran is prepared to comply with its commitments under the 2015 deal, then we are prepared to do the same. You know, that's going to be our focus as it relates to the IAEA investigations, the safeguards. Our position is crystal clear. Iran needs to answer. It's crystal clear. The investigations are not political. They are not leverage or bargaining chips. Once the IAEA Director General reports to the Board of Governors that the outstanding issues have been clarified and resolved, we expect them to come off the board's agenda and not before. We are unbending in our support for the IAEA's independence. There should not be any conditionality between re-implementation of the JCPOA and investigations related to Iran's legal obligations under the Non-Proliferation Treaty. And of course, it would be preferable to return to the JCPOA without any open safeguard issues. The power to achieve that is fully in Iran's hands. I'll take one from the back. I'm not sure if I have any more on Ethiopia. Go ahead.
So President Biden laid out last night the problems that the country is facing: divisions, extremism, polarization. What is his message to adversaries around the world who are looking at this and trying to leverage the division in the country, and also allies who are dismayed at the state of democracy in the U.S.?
So it's the same message he has sent to the world since before January 6th about sacrosanct democratic norms and the importance of standing up for democracy as authoritarianism rises around the world. And so the same message, nothing is new. This is opposite of partisan and about values, much bigger, much higher than that. And that's him working to strengthen democracy in the world. That's what he's going to continue to do. Thanks, everybody.
I gotta go. Maureen to be behind him. Maureen, you take the question from the back.
Peter got the L today. Karine. Well, that is the end of the press conference. I appreciate you guys for hanging out with me. It means a lot to me that you do so. Don't forget, I'm going live later today for the news where we share laughs. We make fun of the news. We make fun of politicians. And we try to make sense of what's going on in the world. I hope you guys are having a great day. But I appreciate you guys. Have a great day. I'll see you a little later today. Be sure to come hang out with us. Tell your friends and family about the Derek O'Shea Show. Okay, bye.